Hello, my friend. I'm glad you found your way here again. Before we begin, take a slow breath in and let it go. Feel the air settle somewhere deep in your chest. This moment belongs only to you, quiet, simple, unhurried. Today's question is one that moves quietly through the corners of many lives. Why do we sometimes feel most alone when we are surrounded by others? It's a strange ache, isn't it, to stand in a room full of people, the air alive with conversation and laughter, and still feel that quiet distance between yourself and the rest of the world. You nod, you smile, you play your part, yet something within you remains untouched, as if behind a thin sheet of glass. The sound of others reaches you, but not their warmth. Their presence fills the space, but not the emptiness that hums inside you. You might start to wonder, what's wrong with you? After all, isn't connection supposed to heal that feeling? Isn't being with others meant to dissolve loneliness? And yet you sense it. The way loneliness can bloom, even in company. The way silence can echo inside you, even when the world is loud. Maybe the loneliness we feel among others isn't about being unseen, but about being unseen in the way that truly matters. It's not that people don't notice you, it's that they don't see the parts you wish someone would touch gently. The fears, the thoughts you never say aloud, the quiet versions of you that live beneath your practiced smile. You can be known for your name, your work, your habits, your sense of humor, and still remain a stranger. Because being seen is not the same as being understood, and being surrounded is not the same as being met. Think about a time when you were at a gathering, maybe a work event, a family dinner, a celebration. You smiled, you talked, maybe even laughed, but deep down, it felt like you were watching life through a window. Everyone around you seemed to belong to a rhythm you couldn't quite join. The words came easily, but they skimmed the surface. What you really wanted was not small talk or noise, but a kind of meeting that happens in silence. When someone looks at you and somehow says, without words, "I get it, you don't have to explain," that kind of meeting is rare. And that's why loneliness is too. Not the absence of people, but the absence of resonance. We're taught to measure belonging by how many people we're around. But the truth is, belonging is an invisible thing. It doesn't always announce itself with smiles or noise. Sometimes you belong most when you're sitting in quiet next to one person who doesn't need you to perform. Sometimes you belong to a song, or to a memory, or to the night sky. Belonging isn't about numbers, it's about depth. There's also another layer. Sometimes the loneliness you feel in a crowd is a mirror showing you how far you've drifted from yourself. You've spent so long trying to fit the world's rhythm that you've forgotten your own. You laugh when others laugh, speak when expected, move where life pushes you. But somewhere in all that motion, you lost the thread of what feels honest. And so, even surrounded by others, you're missing the one presence that could have comforted you most, your own. When you start to notice that, the subtle disconnection from yourself, the loneliness in company begins to make sense. Because when your outer world no longer matches your inner truth, every crowd becomes an echo chamber. You hear your own emptiness reflected back. Still, that recognition is not a curse. It's a quiet invitation, a reminder to come home to yourself, to ask, what part of me have I left behind in trying to belong? Maybe you've silenced your opinions to avoid conflict. Maybe you've hidden your sadness to stay easy to be around. Maybe you've carried others' expectations so long, you can no longer tell where they end and you begin. And when you start reclaiming those parts, when you let yourself show up whole again, something changes. The loneliness doesn't vanish overnight, but it starts to soften. Because now, even if others don't see you, you do. You no longer abandon yourself in the crowd. Sometimes, feeling alone among others is also a sign that you've outgrown the spaces you used to fit into. The conversations that once energized you now feel shallow. The people you once mirrored no longer reflect who you're becoming. This isn't failure, it's evolution. You're no longer content with noise. You crave connection that feels alive, not rehearsed. It takes courage to recognize that, to sit in that in-between place where you can't go back to who you were, but don't yet know who will walk beside you next. There's grief in that space, but also freedom. It means you're shedding what no longer nourishes your spirit. It means you're clearing room for the kind of presence that truly meets you, not out of obligation, but out of shared, quiet understanding. You might ask, how do I find that kind of connection? The truth is, you can't chase it. It arrives when you begin to live honestly enough for others to recognize themselves in your truth. Real connection grows, not from trying to be interesting, but from being real, from letting your cracks show and trusting that someone, somewhere, will see the light inside them. And sometimes, before we can be met by others, we must learn to meet ourselves with the same attention we long for. Sit with yourself the way you'd sit with someone you love, without rushing to fix, without filling the silence. Listen to your own loneliness. It's not there to punish you, it's there to tell you something about what you need. Maybe it's depth, maybe it's rest, maybe it's simply to be honest about the ache. There's a quiet paradox in it all. The more you accept your loneliness, the less it isolates you. Because loneliness, at its core, is the most human thing. Everyone carries it, even those who seem endlessly surrounded. The moment you admit it, you stop being alone in it. It becomes a bridge, not a wall. You may never stop feeling moments of distance in crowds, and that's okay. They're reminders that your heart still longs for truth, that you haven't gone numb to what matters, and that longing, my friend, is proof of your capacity to love, not your failure to belong. So next time you find yourself among people and feel that familiar ache, don't rush to escape it. Let it speak. Maybe it's saying, you're growing again. Maybe it's whispering, you're ready for a deeper way of being seen. And when the night quiets, when the noise fades, and you find yourself alone again, remember, solitude isn't the same as loneliness. Solitude is where you return to your center, where you remember what it feels like to be whole without performance. And from that wholeness, connection begins again. Not as something you chase, but as something that naturally meets you where you are. Because when you finally belong to yourself, being surrounded by others no longer threatens your peace. You can move through the noise with gentleness, knowing you carry your own stillness within. And when someone finally looks at you and truly sees you, you'll recognize them instantly because you've already learned to see yourself. So maybe the next time you stand in a room full of people and that wave of loneliness rises, take a slow breath in and remember, you're not broken. You're simply waiting for truth to find you again. And it will. Thank you for being here, for giving yourself this moment to reflect. Stay gentle, stay curious, and stay kind. And if this question spoke to you, continue your journey with us on Yarvan's Questions. More stories, more reflections, and more quiet truths are waiting for you. Take care, my friend. Until next time.